All right, so we're back up on the bike here. We're just leaving the bridge behind and we are going to make our way a very short distance here. Our next point of interest is coming up just right up here. One of the things you'll notice here about the grade, it is very, very well traveled. There's a lot of sort of recreational traffic on the grade. So you can see that in a lot of places the ballast has kind of been pushed aside and we're kind of right down to the gravel that's underneath. Okay, so here's our next sort of point of interest. And so what we have here is we have a fairly large rock cut, probably one of the bigger ones in this area. And so what we'll do is I'll work your way through this, and then we have a road crossing coming up very shortly. All right, so I'm going to walk you through this rock cut that we have here. And you can see the cut is on both sides of the grade, very prominently on both sides. Very, very high here. We're probably in about the 10 or 12 foot range, and it just continues to get larger as we move ahead. This is this is the last really big rock cut before we get to Thunder Bay. You can see sort of the height here. Now we're kind of pushing in excess of probably 15 feet here. Here, really neat, you can actually see the drill marks. So you can see the drill marks here from the drill, from where they did the blasting. Those are always kind of neat to see because you don't always see those, just because of the blasting techniques that were employed at the time. A lot of the leaves are gone, so we can see the sides of the rock cut very well here. You can see there's a lot of kind of reddy, kind of rusty colored rocks. Obviously a lot of sort of oxidizing content in there. A little bit harder to see things on the south side here just because of the backlighting. Here we can see yet more drill marks coming down. Our little message for the day. So remember, kids, take it in, whatever that means. I love this one here. I love this this rock that's kind of perched up on the top there. It might be a little bit hard to see because of the backlighting. Again, you can see some drill marks on the rocks here. Here you can actually see, I forgot to point this out here, you can actually see some of the rockfall that's happened. So some of the rocks have come down over time. I guess in the last 15 years or so since the railway's been in operation, or probably at least even shorter than that, right? Because they would have had to, they pulled up the rails in this area around 2008. So it had to have been probably after that. So we'll just continue to make our way through. You can see more rock fall here. There's more drill marks up there. So around here was a milepost marker. I believe this was milepost 183, supposed to be around here somewhere, but obviously the marker is gone. And again, the cut just continues here. Again, we're probably in about a 15-foot range, I'm guessing. And here it starts to peter out a little bit. Gets a little bit more grown in, particularly on the south side. So the last little vestiges here. And so this kind of brings us to the end of this rock cut here. So what we'll do is we'll hop back up on the bike and we'll just continue heading west. We actually have a road crossing coming up just up ahead. You can see that in the distance. All right, so we're back in the saddle here and we're just making our way again along to the west. We do have a road crossing, as I mentioned, coming up very, very shortly. So while we have a moment here, we'll do our usual history lesson. We'll have to kind of interrupt it for the road crossing. So this line was built by Canadian Northern Railway between 1911 and 1914. This line was going to be one of the final pieces in Canadian Northern's transcontinental ambitions. The Canadian Northern Company actually started out in the late 1890s, mid to late 1890s in Manitoba. Started buying up a few lines there, and then their first kind of big project was the construction of a line between the then city of Port Arthur, which is Thunder Bay, which is just to the west of us, westward to Winnipeg. And that line was built between 1899 and 1902. And soon thereafter, Canadian Northern began building all kinds of lines across the prairies to basically serve some of the underserved agricultural areas there. And then they also began building and acquiring lines north of Toronto all the way into the Sudbury area. Now, eventually the gentleman who ran the company, William Mackenzie and Donald Mann, realized that in order for the company to be viable, they would have to have a transcontinental line. Now, one of the big issues with that was they knew that there was going to be some very, very difficult and some very expensive areas of construction. So we need to stop here for a second. We need to grab Luna, and we need to make our way carefully across the road, because some of these roads can get a little bit busy. So this is Coral Bay Drive. You can see the sign there. All right, so as we make our way across here, as I was saying, there were several expensive and difficult areas of construction that were going to be coming up, including this one here. Now we're going to pause here for a second. We do have a few things we need to take a look at. Over here, we do actually have a piece of rail that's been left behind. I'll take my helmet off so you can see a little bit better. I did try to look for any identifying marks on this rail. I didn't see anything. I don't want to dig too much through here because it's pretty gross. Yeah, I don't see anything on there, and maybe if it's been sitting on its side for a long time, a lot of the marks are worn off. You can actually see the base of a pole there. On this railway line, there were actually two lines that used to run parallel to the grade. There was a power line, and then there was a telegraph line. And so the telegraph line was actually on the north side. Here's that rail that's still here, and there's the base of the telegraph pole down there. It's kind of wet in here, so I don't want to go stomping through here. All right, so as I continue my story, one second here, get my helmet back on. Actually, I'll leave my helmet off because we actually have something to take a look at right over here. All right, so as I was saying, there was a few difficult sections to construct, including this one here. And so Canadian Northern really did not want to build the link between the Sudbury area, specifically Rouel, and Port Arthur, because it was going to be difficult and it was going to be very, very expensive. And so they actually tried to negotiate a running rights agreement with Canadian Pacific Railway, and they weren't able to do that. And so eventually their hand was forced, and they did have to build the line through this area. Another little point of interest here, and so you can see this metal pole that's right here. There's nothing attached to it, but basically, given its proximity to the road crossing, I'm assuming that is the flanger sign for the plow. Again, unfortunately, no sign attached to it. And then right over here, wind's starting to pick up a little bit. It's starting to getting cloudy again. We actually have a culvert You can actually see the culvert underneath the road over there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drop down and go take a look at that. All right, so we've made our way down here below the level of the grade. We're on the north side. And so here you can see the opening of the concrete culvert here. It's probably about a 4-foot diameter culvert. You can see some of the work that's been done to kind of reinforce the sides of the grade. You can see all the kind of the rock work here, obviously covered in quite a bit of moss. If we come down here to the level of the creek, carefully, we can see the culvert itself is in pretty good shape. Maybe that last section on the south side there looks like it's a little bit displaced, but what we'll do is we'll hop the grade and go take a look at what's happening on that side. Just give you a kind of a little more of a wide angle look here. Okay, so we'll jump across and go take a look at what's happening there. All right, so we're down here on the south side of the grade. You can see the creek here flowing to the south towards Lake Superior. Try not to fall in the creek. You can see the culvert that runs underneath the road to the south, and just to the north of us here you can see the opening for the concrete culvert. It's a little bit difficult to see. You have all of these branches and things that are coming down. Thankfully the leaves are gone, so we can actually see the opening a little bit better. This is about as close as we can get, simply because the water is pretty deep here and the banks are pretty steep on the side, so we really can't see the inside of the culvert itself. From here it looks like it's in pretty good shape. You can see some of the work, the stonework that they've done around there. Looks like there is some logs and things inside to shore up the sides of the culvert. Okay, so we'll hop back up on the grade here, and we'll just continue pushing our way west towards our destination.